Hi, this is John Mark, pastor here with Cottonwood. We're starting our question and answer session after week one in relationship goals here on the stage that you text in questions. And so they're great questions. To my left is James Caldwell. Tell them a little bit about yourself, James.
Well, I'm a licensed professional counselor. I do marriage, family counseling, do a lot of work with adolescents, a lot, kids that have some anger issues sometimes. It's just a wide variety of issues, depression, anxiety. And I also work for Frisco Independent School District as a Safe Schools Coordinator.
To my right is my lovely wife. You want to tell them a little bit about yourself? What do you do?
Well, I teach 6th grade in the Lovejoy ISD, and I have been married to John Mark for quite a while, and I'm excited about giving some advice or tips on relationships.
Very good. Hey, let's jump into question number one. Question number one, great question in all relationships. I think this goes, and that's what we want this relationship goals series to be about, not just marriage, but singles, whatever. How do we argue successfully? The truth is, in a fallen world, if we are in relationships, whether it's friendships, marriages, whatever it is, we're going to have arguments. So maybe from a counseling perspective, what's your best tip for arguing successfully or having disagreements successfully?
Well, I think, first of all, try not to argue.
Yeah, okay.
It's how you approach it. But, we're always going to have differences with people. But I think empathy has a lot to do with it. So whether you're a teacher, working with students, you're an employer, work with your employees, or it's husband, wife, friendships, whatever it might be. If you can stop and think where that person's coming from, it's easier, if you're older, you can see what it's like to be somebody younger. But when you're young, it's kind of hard to imagine what it's like to be a parent, for example. But I think that's where you start, is empathy. And like you talked about, earlier today in the sermon, just talking about it's our attitude, our speech, how we come across to other people. So approaching it with that Christ-like attitude, that I'm not out to get you. It's not about me winning this argument. It's about solving this problem. So I think if you approach it from that aspect, that we're here to solve a problem. I'm not here to shame you or put you in your place. I'm not here to win. I'm here to fix the issue. So in counseling, a lot of times we work on I messages, where you start with I instead of saying you, because when you say you always do this or you always do that, we get defensive. So we start with I. I get when you because. Like if you're showing up late, and you don't call and say you're going to be late, then you start worrying like, wow, what's happened? So an I message, instead of saying, you're always late. You never call me. I'm always worried about you. Instead of saying that, it's I get worried when you don't show up when you say you will, because I think something bad might have happened. It's hard when to get angry, if somebody says something like that. You have to just want to fight. Of course, some people like to fight, and hopefully you're not married to somebody like that.
That's true. There are some people, don't point at us because we don't like to fight. A lot of people just like to fight, but that is a great idea. I get, say that.
I get when you because.
Okay.
And I tell couples too, because a lot of times when couples come in for counseling, it's just a lot of communication issues. So if you can really listen to each other, and use those I messages. And I always tell them, don't worry about it being mechanical, because they'll get into a disagreement that next week, and they'll be going, well, you're just saying this because we're in counseling. But if and so it's almost humorous for them. But if you really stop and think, a 2-year-old can send a you message, but you really have to concentrate and think about what you're saying to send an I message.
Well, I think that empathy that you mentioned is so hard to get to. I think we are in such a hurry in life that we don't pause and get that empathy. And it takes really diving in and asking, trying to figure out what is really the problem, what's underneath it. It may require you asking, why do you feel this way, or what caused that? Or, and even tracing that why question down the road several times before you can really understand what is the root of the argument. It may not be the coming home late. It may be a bigger issue that requires just some time and unpacking that.
Yeah, just not assuming where they're coming from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we don't have a perfect marriage, but what about our fights? I mean, not that we fight a lot.
Yeah, what about your fights?
Yeah, explain. Let me talk to you about you. No, we disagree a lot. I mean, on the way we do things and parenting and stuff. But we've done a decent job through the years of not letting disagreements becoming arguments and fights. And so as I read that question, do you have any keys to why that's been that way? I mean,
Well, I think that
thoughts?
we know each other so well. A lot of times, I know what you're thinking. But if I wasn't, I would ask what's going on. I think that it has been critical to our success in arguing is we try to really figure out what is the heart of the argument. What is it truly about? And if we disagree, there's got to be some compromise there somewhere. Compromise, maybe that's the answer.
And I think, too, you don't assume ill will with each
Right.
other. If there's something going on, you realize you're on the same team,
Right.
and you're trying to solve this problem. And you're not out to get each other. But when you constantly think, that person's out to get me, then everything becomes an argument. Everything becomes a big deal.
Boy, that's genius. I mean, that's so. If you're watching this, something that he just said, maybe I didn't even just catch. I don't ever know that I've thought Jeana, although we disagreed, that she wished me ill will. And so I think that changes perspective. But I also think, not relationship with her, I do have relationships with other people, sometimes in church, and they're Christians, that I do make some assumptions that they do wish me ill. And I can't only imagine what that might be like in a relationship, a marriage relationship, or somewhere else. I think that's a genius statement that don't, put some eyes in there before you always go with the U's, and then don't always assume ill will. Maybe that'll help. So.
As a teacher and a mom, that comes into play for sure. When there is an argument that is going on, just to know that the heart of whatever is, if it's a student or one of my own particular children, that their heart is not to the ill will, and my heart back to them is not.
Okay.
And you don't know what's going on
Right.
with that kid either. There could
Exactly.
be all kinds of issues going on.
All right. Well, hopefully that's a little bit of help in arguing successfully. Don't argue. Don't let it blow up. I will tell you, we've done a pretty good job over the years. No, not a really good job of not letting arguments escalate. We've done a really good job of letting small things stay small things and not building mountains out of molehills. And so hopefully that'll help you argue more successfully.